Hello and welcome to Health with Sveta. I'm Dr. Silverman, and today we're continuing our conversation with amazing chef Shane Chartrand of the Enoch Creation, an award-winning chef and co-author of Tawau, the progressive indigenous cuisine. In this episode, we will dive deeper into his food philosophy, his take on healthy eating, and how he blends indigenous traditions with modern cooking. It's all about health. It's all about love. It's all about happiness. Good morning, my dear friends. I'm so excited today. It's an episode number 2 with Chef Shane. And it's exciting because the note that we finished our first podcast was exactly how Shane started his journey into his philosophy of food and his philosophy of cooking. And that's why I'm so excited because, not only it's kind of interesting and instrumental for me to know his journey and his foods. And obviously, because he already talking to me about healthy, whole foods, healthy, whole indigenous foods. Indeed, it immediately sort of, tweaks me towards the healthy living. But then I was so excited when Shane said that his inspiration and kind of mentorship came from Chef Susser Lee. I have never met Susser Lee, but I'm following him. I'm following his foods. He's amazing. His life journey is amazing. So it's very peculiar. I don't say coincidental because it's not. It's the universe that connected Shane to Susser Lee and then connected me to Shane. So let's keep continue. Welcome, Shane. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for honoring us again and again. Now, listen, last time we finished at exactly how you got your enlightenment per se.
Yeah.
So continue this. How did it evolve after?
So there's a lot of questions that I had that were unanswerable, that were in the Chinese and the French food world that Susser Lee brought forward. And the more I learned about it, the more I realized that I need to know my culture more. So then it's the ingredient driven. You're talking about healthy food. The people that I know from the Northwest Territories, you got Dene up there. There are some Crees up there and etc. But some of the stuff that they're eating that's very natural, fat forward, such as whale meat and seal meat, I've eaten it all in my travels. And then I've had to back it up a little bit when it comes to like the amount of omega-3s that are in wild salmon and just what makes it healthy when something is so fatty. Now, you got to realize I was quite young when I was learning this stuff. The first time I tried whale, I ate whale blubber. I ate it raw. I loved it. It really depends on how you season it. Really, it's not as horrible as people may think it is because they got something in their mind already of what it would be like. But it's actually very delicious and very good for you. So Susser Lee's world made me want to study mine more.
Can I interrupt you? Because that's the thing is here in this urban environment, we think that protein comes from the grocery store.
Yes.
And the thing is the notion per se, somebody killed a seal or a deer or something that is you kill. So that's a whole thing. I want basically your philosophy. Now, obviously, the wild meats are the healthiest meat. There is no ways around it. And that's when I chime in as a doctor, because now we're talking, let's say, seal, whale, let's say moose, elk, deer. It's a saturated meat, saturated fat. But the thing is, because it's wild, it's good living for them. That saturated fat is actually very healthy. And then we'll chime in on why fats and why, let's say, wild salmon and something like that, these omegas Because, and I will stop right here, because without these omegas, your brain is not going to think. It's as simple as that. You don't get the omegas into your cells, your brain is not going to think, and the cells are not going to function. But the question is, please tell us the philosophy. You're not killing an animal for the sake of a trophy. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's actually a process to that. So when you see the indigenous people will hunt, but the biggest thing is non-indigenous people will just go hunting, right? But what we do is we do it spiritually as well. So we shoot a deer, we actually put down tobacco, we literally thank the animal for giving itself to us. We only shoot what we need, the same as a good human being should do, is naturally just take what you need.
And also, is it true that in a sense the animal presents itself?
Well,
It's not in that culture?
no, we just honor it when we shoot it, and then we make the prayer, and then we leave the tobacco usually under a stone close by, and then we harvest it. There's a lot of different stories, though. I'm not sure which angle you're going, but there's a lot of crazy, awesome stories about animals in our culture. I could do a whole thing on just the animals and their significance to us. Owls is a real interesting one. I won't get into it though because it's just so interesting. Mm-hmm. But anyway,
so that's a podcast 3.
Yeah, so it's the thing, right? So that's what we do as Indigenous people, and then we use the hide, as you know. We stretch, we dry, we felch, we scrape, we use the brains as an enzyme. There's an enzyme in the brain, so it helps cure the inside of the hide. And then there's made tools out of animals, etc., etc. I think we all know this already. But when it comes to the animals themselves, with our culture, yes, it's very good. The meat is very good for us, and we drink the blood.
That's fine. You're not going to argue with me because I can explain it from the cellular metabolic perspective.
Okay, yeah.
Getting sort of, in a sense, as an allopathic physician, some people will roll your eyes, but I can explain it from the cell metabolism.
Yeah.
It's called metabolomics.
Okay. That's
very
cool.
So keep going. So that's okay, fine. So you started getting into from north into the proper food.
Yeah. So then from there, you get things like reindeer moss. Reindeer moss is a lichen. It's edible. You can find it everywhere, anywhere. Not necessarily reindeer moss, reindeer lichen, but lichen you can find anywhere. Indigenous people, especially the Blackfoot Confederacy, taught me one, like 50 steps into the forest will save your whole life. You just got to know how to find these things. You have to know how to forage properly. You have to understand what to look for, what to see. But the minute you see them, as you know, the minute you see a morel mushroom, you know what it looks, you know what it is, right? But
I would love to see morel mushrooms in the wild.
Yeah, but you got to get the knowledge. And the thing is about Indigenous is people call them knowledge keeper. I call them knowledge givers because our people definitely give the knowledge of medicines, plant medicines, food-based medicines. So then it went through, so going down the road, back on track with the Suture Lee thing and then figuring out what my culture was. I went so deep in our culture that I've realized that, and this is a big, bold thing for me to say. Right now, what I'm going to say is so big and bold, but it's the truth. Whether people want to believe it or not. Even a lot of Indigenous people don't know Indigenous food. They don't. I'm still seeing bannock and burgers and fries and chips and pop, candy. Yes, that's cheap food. I get it. But I'm still not seeing the wild game.
Stop.
Yep.
It's not cheap. It's very expensive
Actually, you're
for
right.
the health.
Yeah.
And it's very expensive for our health care. But it's also very expensive for their life. So I can't even now overestimate what you just said. The word truth, the word history, the word honoring the culture, and then the foods. Sorry, I keep interrupting you because I'm so excited. Keep going.
Yeah, so truth, remember last time we talked about the word tapui is the Cree word for truth. So everything that I say is tapui, is the truth that I know by experience, not by example or not by guesstimations. Then the biggest thing about my travels, no one has seen. I don't believe, and this is very humble, but it's not. I'm not boasting about this. It's part of my life. All my travels that I do, and I travel monthly, and so many Indigenous people I meet, I extract some of their culinary knowledge. And I tell them, I say, can we share? I'll give you something if you give me some of your history, your Dene, your Métis. So I learned a lot about Indigenous culinary arts through my traveling and through my questions. I think very carefully about what I'm going to say, and I listen very carefully to what I want to hear. I extract what I want to hear, and I leave what I don't necessarily need in my life. Back to the food though. Our people have lost, and I won't get too into this politics stuff, but our people have lost so much. Food is also one of them. Whether it's language, art, medicine, hair, culture, we've lost everything. But we've also lost food. So the only people that really understand what Indigenous food are usually the knowledge keepers, sharers, or the elders. But food is the one thing that's hard for us to get back because we've lost so much about hunting, fishing, and outdoor living. And here we are eating a diet that's not made for us. And it's a fact. Doctors know it. My doctor actually retired. My doctor said, stick to the Indigenous diet, Shane, please. I know the truth. You are Indigenous. I know what you do, and you need to stick to the diet in the cookbook you even wrote yourself. I thought it was pretty good. But that's called intertribal. Intertribal is non-Indigenous people with Indigenous people, all of us talking in a circle and extracting the information and getting those little tinctures of information and food bites and information culinary bundles. That's what I do. Sincerely, I give him so much more credit than he knows. He doesn't even know. If it wasn't for that book and I saw all that wild game and those birds and the feathers and the talons and the meat and everything that he was cooking in the cookbook years ago, I don't know how I would have ever found my culture.
How do you fuse them? What do you do?
What do I do, sorry?
Yeah, how do you fuse that cuisine? Because, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So now you're learning, you're absorbing, and you are implementing your traditions. You are French trained chef. You
Yes.
learned Asian food from Susser and stuff. How do you cook you?
I think that we have as Indigenous people, I think we have a responsibility. Our responsibility is to teach everything that we learn. I think a lot of people don't understand how big that word is and how big it is to be an Indigenous person like myself and know that my life is all the frequencies that I create in my life as I walk this earth. Everything affects other people. And somebody recently said to me, "Did you know?" I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but I'll bring it up now. "Did you know you are feeding the dead?" An elder told me this. I said, "I don't understand." He said, "You are feeding. What is the recipe? What is the menu for the dead?" Think about this for a minute, Chef Shane from the Enoch Cree Nation. Think. He was talking about the influences of the land of us when we pass away, when we expire. We're still here in spirit. We believe, because we're still here, we're dead, we go somewhere. We believe we stay on this earth, and we walk this earth, and we guide people, and we're there for our people and our family. We try our best to make sure they do the right things, but that influence is something like the Blackfoot believe that trees have DNA, Blackfoot DNA in the trees, because as your body decomposes, all of your DNA is in this earth and affects everything. So you're feeding the dead because now it's influencing the trees. It's influencing Mother Nature. Whether you believe this or not, doesn't necessarily matter. It's really just about those stories that I've been told and I get taught. Then you take with what you want to believe and what you like. I believe in that story. And I do believe that's an extension of culinary.
That's your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick break to talk about some tangible steps you can take right now towards true health and happiness. My life's purpose is to empower you to seize control of your life, especially when it comes to wellness. But every person's needs are unique, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. That's why we're launching a brand new initiative. Now, you can book one-on-one call with me, Dr. Sveta Silverman. Please do. Together, we'll talk about your history, your health history, how you feel, how can you improve on your health, the goals. I'll use that information to help you to plan a custom approach full of recommendation that I learned not only from my medical career, but from my personal journey. Let's unlock the secrets of happier, healthier you. Visit healthwithsveta.com/contact to book your free 30 minutes conversation and call with me. Now back to the episode. So, okay, this is awesome. This is so up my alley because what you're talking about, you're talking in a sense about the legacy of energy. We are the energy.
That's right.
We're the energy. And that energy per se doesn't dissipate. And the energy can be negative and can be positive. And it's my mission, so is yours, to have this energy, to create this positive energy. That's how you're feeding the dead, quote unquote, with that positivity. That's the mission.
Yeah.
In the philosophical spectrum. This is amazing because then again, it's a philosophy of your food. Because I believe if you cook with an angry heart,
Yes.
if you cook without love,
Yeah.
you better don't cook.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what kind of foie gras you put on the plate and what kind of truffles you shave. You gotta cook with your heart. You gotta cook with your soul, and you gotta cook with your love. Not only, I think what is so important, first of all, you found yourself, you started to love yourself. From that struggle from the childhood and all that stuff. That's number one. And now you're cooking with your love inside of you, but also carrying this love to others. And you're doing it not only through food. There's a whole lot more to it. You're the ambassador. You have an incredible role on your shoulders because you're native.
Yeah.
You're ambassador. You're carrying that heavy burden. So that positivity on everything, the way you live your life, the way you cook your life, the way you write your life, and that is so important. That like your importance is more than importance of a prime minister, because you're carrying a nation in a sense.
Yeah, and
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I.
It's like it sounds big, but it's true. It's true because you're carrying your people who need help.
Yeah.
We need to get back to the roots.
There's a small part of that too, and the big thing is I could say I could feed you pemmican and you may not like it. But the thing
That's
is,
right.
The thing about food,
but I actually would like pemmican. I know what pemmican is.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like there's a difference between enjoying food, and then enjoying or eating food for survival.
Exactly.
So there's a few different angles you go on this.
Exactly. Pemmican is for body survival, but it's also tasty. It's wild berries and fish. It's good.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with a wild caught fish?
Yeah.
I mean, and the way it is cooked and stuff.
Yes.
So no, I have nothing against pemmican at all. People read out on pemmican. Now, what role do traditional indigenous foods play in promoting health and wellness? So maybe create me a menu.
Create you a menu right now?
The Woods menu or something, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't have to be.
No, I can do it.
Go ahead.
I think what I would probably do is start with dishes that I've learned over the years from other nations that are really simple, such as a good stew. A stew is not actually, listen to this stew though. It's called a rububu stew. Rububu is a Métis stew that derives of the same vegetables as a regular stew, but it's obviously foraged and curated. But the big thing is it's got bear grease in it. It's got bear fat. So when you shoot a bear, people ask me questions. How do you just end up with bear grease, bear fat? Well, you extract it from heating it up, and then scraping out the fat from the bear. It's not that hard to
You
figure
don't
out.
waste anything, correct?
Exactly. But with the rububu stew, that's one small little dish that I learned along the way. Um, so then maybe your question would be, well, we can make the stew with the basic Three Sisters ingredients, but then how are we supposed to get the bear fat? Okay, fair enough. But there's so many other things too. So you can infuse or whatever, but that's not necessarily indigenous. I gotta say something about indigenous food though. So like I was just gonna say on here, I call them tinctures, and I don't call the reason I call them tinctures. I know that's a medical term, is because they're such small little expressions of very concentrated ingredients such
Yep.
as wild mint or wild sage or wild
Yep.
thyme that you boil it down and you crush it with a rock, or you do this Cinnabong style open fire cooking. There's so many different levels to food, but at the end of the day, let's say we decide to do basic boiled potatoes. Boiled potatoes is a very indigenous thing. It is just water, salt, potatoes, boiled, fat, eat, done. With a roast of let's say it's a deer roast, open fire, done. Pretty straightforward, right? But the difference between indigenous culinary arts and everything else, because people ask, what is culinary arts? What's indigenous food? What's indigenous cuisine? I don't get it, because is it just hunted deer? You just shoot a deer, it's indigenous? Well, no, that's not it, because you can hunt and so can you. Go get your go get your tickets and study a bit and go get a gun and go shoot a bird. That does not make it indigenous. It's the spirit that you have to have along, like we were talking about when you thank the animal. You have to do these things along the way, but also the big thing is knowing the spirit has to be there. Like you have to curate a mindset of everything that goes on. So, for instance, you've already said it. We're going to sit here and have a great meal. Our minds change. Our energy becomes different. We become happier. We have more to say. But you have to also be very grateful and thankful to the Creator for giving you this food, and that's also part of Indigenous cuisine. It's a good human thing to do, anyways. But that's just what we do all the time. So if it's healthy, it's good for you, and it's ethical, this is Indigenous cuisine. So I wanted to nail that though before we continue.
This is incredible. Oh, so then now you're responsible to open the restaurant for us. We gotta eat. We gotta eat.
Yeah,
we gotta.
yeah.
Do we have to eat?
Yeah.
We gotta eat. So this is amazing. No, this philosophy, it's obviously, why is it so important for me? Why was it so important for me to have you on the podcast and stuff? Because of that, the energy of those food, the spirit of the food, the history, everything makes sense and everything has a meaning and everything is connected
Mm-hmm.
to the Creator.
Yeah.
We don't just eat, just to feed ourselves. We eat to feed our bodies and to feed our souls. But we need to do it the way of connection. That's exactly
Yeah.
what you said. So let's say you have this culture, this indigenous connection. Let's say I have my part of religion and stuff. But the thing is, to learn about everybody else's, to accept it, and to again to learn from it and get better and get higher in terms of the energy and connection with the divine and kindness of us, kindness and love. And again, obviously the food doesn't interfere. I love the connection with foods. And I personally love learn everything that is attached. And it's interesting that obviously, let's say I love to watch all these fancy cooking shows and stuff. And every person who is on top
Yeah,
has cultural connection with the food and has a philosophy of food. Again, they don't just cook chemical gastronomy.
that's right. Yeah,
And the fanciest chefs, they sometimes,
yeah,
like
that's right.
Sicily, in a sense, they don't like gastronomy per se because it's not the soul, it's not the heart.
Yeah,
The reality is that we're connected with animals, we're connected with plants, we're connected with trees, we're connected with air and stuff, and that
yeah.
is such a huge part of indigenous cuisine.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is it's always been here, so no one listened. And that's the biggest thing about my culture is nobody ever listened to us from
How
the
are you
beginning.
going to break that barrier? Because that is critically important. They don't listen.
Well,
It's easier to go to McDonald's.
well, it is. And here's something else to think about is once you get through the idea of when you eat healthy, the flavors, okay, if you're not used to eating carrots and potatoes and good farmers markets food, let's just say, and you're used to eating all that stuff, you have a taste for it. So the problem with that is there's good and bad. Once you start eating healthy, and I tell us the indigenous youth all the time, the minute you start eating better, don't use the word healthy because you now as a kid you think, oh, healthy's boring. Okay, just eat better food. How about this? Once you get a palate for understanding what that food tastes like, it won't go away. Stay on that. If you want a cheat day, you want to go get a cheeseburger one, fine. But you have to remember the flavors that you now that have matured. Yeah, and that's the kind of palate indigenous that we need in our lives.
Absolutely. I call it vicious circle of health.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you start actually on the journey, and in a sense you kind of commit, tasty foods, they encourage you to eat tasty foods and local foods, clean foods,
Mm-hmm.
wild foods. There's no ways around it. They're tastier.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no ways to compare the commercial carrots and the farmer's market carrots. It's different. The butter is different. It's just different.
That's right.
The meats are different. So, but then from that perspective, again, now not only eating healthy, your mind is happier. There's a switch. The cells are becoming healthier. The cells are becoming cleaner. Every cell, it's not just about the liver, but it's also the brain and the immune system and everything. So then you are cleaner. The cleaner you eat, the better you eliminate. The better you eliminate, the cleaner you are. The cleaner you are, the clearer your mind is.
Yep.
What is Alzheimer's disease? They call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes.
Jeez.
Because it's all processed foods. It's this processed carbohydrates. Not 100% of the
Mm-hmm.
etiology, but
Yeah.
that's what it is. So and then you go, okay, now I'm eating good, I'm healthier. Why don't I start moving better? So then you may go for walks. I'm not talking about pumping iron.
Yep.
I'm talking about enjoying the nature. Japanese have a term for this. They call it forest bathing. And it's a mandatory part of therapy, forest bathing. Where do proper natives, that's the culture, they were in the woods, hunting, gathering, in the trees. Trees have energy. Water has love. Water has energy. That is why it's all connected. It's so important. And it's our mission to educate it and encourage people to do it more and more and more. Okay, so enough of me and my philosophical exercise. Chef Chartrand, please
Yes.
give us a menu. Do you want 4-course meal, 5-course meal, or do you want a chef's table?
If it was just something,
Don't break my wallet.
if it was something where I felt that I wanted to show the biggest expression of how to eat, not just what you're eating, first thing I would do is lose all the forks, knives, spoons, and that's how you start this. That's how you start this meal. So you're eating with your hands. This is where I would probably get everybody I'd start a fire. I'd get a piece of wild game. Let's say it's a tenderloin of deer. Let's just say something simple, just one tenderloin, open fire roast, slice it gently, put it on a piece of wood, a piece of whatever natural wood that we could, a natural board we could find, and just have 3 wipes of like those wild parsley, wild thyme, wild rosemary, even maybe a little bit of maple on there, and we would just eat the deer with our fingers, with a little tincture, with a bit of sauce. That would be it. That's how you start off. That would be a great way. And maybe we make some chaga tea. That would be ready open fire as well. That would be a nice way to start a good meal, I think.
Do us some vegetables or something.
Yeah, but
Some
then that would
accoutrement.
just be your little starter. And this is the big thing. Okay, so you asked me just to say menu.
Go ahead.
So you have to envision this in your brain because this will happen. Every time I think about these ideas, I do so many events. This is gonna happen. So imagine when you come into this restaurant, eating room, whatever, wherever I'm feeding a group of, let's say, 8. I would have some Indigenous warriors, probably 2 females dressed in regalia, beautiful rock stars, because the women in our culture are the real rock stars, not the men. The men were the hunters. The women were always the warriors. They would come in and we would probably drop a big tree, open it up. We'd cut it. We'd carve it. We'd use that tree for later purposes. Probably the same thing being the feast. Inside, we'd have roasted squash, roasted vegetables, roasted carrots, tons of vegetables, tons of greens, corn, everything. And then in there, we'd probably have a lot of game, wild game. Everything's open fire. Nothing touches anything. Maybe there's a couple of cast iron skillets, but more so a lot of berries. Obviously, Saskatoon's very native. I cannot believe how many people don't know what Saskatoons are still. It's crazy to me. When I travel, that is. Anyway, I love Haskap berries for so many reasons. The amount of sugar, less sugar for sure. I'm surprised Haskap berries is such a powerful berry, and the sugar content is so unbelievably low. Wild rice, got to throw some wild rice into that tree trunk. I think that's important. I think this would be the ultimate Indigenous dinner. Not done for the sake of showy either, done properly. Like that tree chopped down, thanked. We thank the Creator for letting us use this tree to feed. And we'll constantly feed and constantly feed, and reuse and reuse. And then we get to showcase a little bit of regalia, a little bit of culture, some singing, but mostly what's inside that tree trunk would be a whole lot of vegetables, potatoes, rice, wild game, berries, eating with your hands. That sounds like a pretty good dinner to me.
Oh, it sounds like an amazing and actually simply cooking dinner because it's a fire cooked,
Yep.
the regular spices, absolutely approachable herbs. Thank you. Now,
Yep.
as a doctor,
Okay.
you mentioned chaga,
Chaga, yes.
chaga tea. Guys, you may not be familiar with chaga tea, chaga mushrooms. So chaga is basically a fungus that grows on birch trees. It's incredibly medicinal. Stories about chaga. It's incredible. It's called adaptogen. It's adaptogen. Look it up. It also has incredible immune supporting. I'm not going to call immune boosting because immune booster, it's not a proper terminology. You don't want to boost your immune system. You want to optimize, upregulate, normalize your immune system. And chaga is absolute one of those components. It's one of the extremely potent medicinal mushrooms. Chaga tea is yum, yum, yum. Now, he mentioned wild rice. Wild rice actually is a misnomer. It's not a rice. It's a protein. It's a grain. It's a protein. It's yum, yum. It's a protein. And we need more protein in our bodies. And huscaps. Huskap berries. And again, Saskatoons. Saskatoons are my favorite berries by far. I'm Saskatoon addicted. I laughed with you when you said that people don't know Saskatoon. It's ridiculous. People Albertans don't know Saskatoons. I'm not talking about people from Arizona
Yeah,
or
yeah.
somewhere. Our all own people don't know, Saskatoon's husks, an incredible amount of what is called polyphenols, aka antioxidants, an extreme health for the body. And of course, we're not going to get into wild meats. Again, it's that protein that you need. The saturated fats are the must deal in our bodies. We just don't think of them the right way. So again, I would love to have that meal. Whenever, let's say, you're conducting that, send me the address. I will make my appearance. And what I would love, Chef Shane,
Yeah.
why don't we go once or sometimes for chaga hunting?
Yeah.
Because, of course, I know chaga. Chaga is in my coffee today. But even as a Russian, I grew up with chaga. But I sort of need someone to show me that fungus. So then I can forge it another time. Chaga, amazing. So on that note, guys, we are going to finish that second segment. And please promise to us that you're coming back for the segment number 3.
Of course.
We have so many things to talk about.
Yes.
Thank you, Chef Chartrand, for joining us and sharing your time, your insight, your soul, and your wisdom. Thank you. It's been a pleasure exploring your journey and hearing your thoughts on Indigenous cuisine and healthy eating and wise eating. For listeners who want to learn more, be sure to check out the cookbook, Tawau, Progressive Indigenous Cuisine, and follow his work online. And please visit local farmers market, Strathcona Farmers Market. And hopefully Chef Shane is going to be there. He's a busy guy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends and family. And for more about me and this podcast, please visit www.healthwithsveta.com. Until next time, stay healthy and be well.